If you're interested about the starter deck 12 featuring Zoro and Sanji, stick around because we got the deck list. Hello everyone and welcome to Anything Geek. My name is Zero and today we're gonna tell you everything you need to know about the starter deck 12. And let's start with both release dates. So we have the 28th of October for the Japanese version of the game, as well as a very vague March 2024 for the global version of the game. And while the Japanese website do not mention any price for the deck, the English version, however, mention an MSRP of $11.99 US. But the most interesting thing that we have to discuss today about the deck is actually the deck list. We already knew of some cards, the leader of course is already well known, but we didn't had a full picture of what the deck will look like. So here is the full deck list. Now bear in mind this is gonna be the first official starter deck with a dual color leader and with 2 characters on the leader instead of just one, and as such each color will be linked to a character, which here is gonna be green for Zoro and blue for Sanji. But let's take a closer look at each cards individually. And the first card, of course, is gonna be the leader, Roronoa Zoro and Sanji. It's a full life leader because he's dual color, 5000 power of the Straw Hat crew. And as an effect, you get Dawn X1 when attacking once per turn. You may return one of your cost 2 or higher character to its owner's hand and set up to one of your characters with 7000 or less power as active. And so the intent with this leader is to bounce some of your low cost on-play effect back into your hand so you can play them again and reuse the on-play effect continuously. Not only that, but it also helps you restand a character that you used to attack to possibly attack again or maybe to reuse as a blocker. And if we look at the full deck list right here, cost 2 or higher to bounce to your hand is practically everybody. The only character that you cannot rebounce to your hand is the Bluefish Tuna, which is a 1 cost character. And not only that, but since your restand targets are 7000 or lower, you can pretty much target everything in the deck to restand. Unless you swap one card for another, every card here you can restand using your leader's effect. But we have many cards to go through, so let's not dwell on this. And next we have Kuina, which is a cost 3, 2000 power of the Shimotsuki village, and an activate main that you may rest this character, and you can rest up to one of your opponent cost 4 or lower character. Perfect to go through the blockers and utility cards and small bodies on the board, but you also get a trigger, which is play this card, as well as a counter plus 1000. I mean, the card can be useful so long as your opponent doesn't play stairs. The next card we have is actually Dracul Mihawk, cost 3 power 4000, 7 Warlords of the Sea and Shigeru Kingdom, which is a new tag that we haven't seen yet, and an effect that is on play if you have 2 or less character. You can play up to 1 cost 4 or lower Shigeru Kingdom type or slash trait character other than Dracul Mihawk from your hand rested. And we haven't seen that much use of the trait so far. The only instance that I can think of is Smoker and Buggy, which have kind of like cannot be KO'd by strike or slash attribute character. But here it targets a non-play effect where you can play cards from your hand, so they can start making cool stuff with that. And of course the card that you're gonna target from your hand to be played is gonna be somewhere along the deck, because that's how deck goes. They're usually well thought of, and I still haven't mentioned that this card also have a counter 2000, so very good in your hand as well as on the board. And the next card is gonna be a vanilla card. Actually, it's Human Drill, costs 3, power 5000, and a counter 1000, Animal and Shigeru Kingdom type. And there's actually nothing much to say about them. This is just a vanilla card, 3 cost 5000. That's what you expect from a vanilla card of small bodies that you can put on the board and start harassing your opponent. And continue on with another vanilla card, we have Perona, which is a 4 cost 6000 power of the Shigeru Kingdom and Thriller Bark type, with a counter of 1000. This is just a bigger version of the previous vanilla cards. 4 cost 6000, again, classical for vanilla. Next we have Yosaku and Johnny, which is a cost 2, 3000 power of the East Blue type. And the effect is Dawn X1, when attacking you can choose up to one of the following effects. You either rest up to one of your opponent's cost 2 or lower character, or you can KO up to one of your opponent cost 2 or lower rested character, with a counter of 1000. Now, I can think of some instance where some red deck, very aggro deck, play low costs and rest them to attack. You can potentially KO one of those cards if you play green against them using these cards, or you can just potentially target some blockers that your opponent has on the field to rest them preemptively to your attack, just so you don't have to deal with those when you go on the offensive. So I don't remember if I said it, it's a counter 1000. Next card we have is absolutely too cute not to mention. It's Rika, the little girl from Shelltown who gave Zoro some onigiri. It's well depicted in this artwork. The artist is actually one that is very known throughout his work for Pokemon, so you might recognize his style. So we have Rika, which is a cost 2, 0 power from the East Blue, and on play for a cost of 2 you have to rest 2 down to play the effect. If your opponent has 3 or more lives, you can set up one of your slash type character with a cost of 4 or less as active. Remember that, Mihawk? Yeah, you can restand it. And it's built in the deck. Not only can you do that, but you also have a counter 2000, so definitely a future staple for green, especially for cards that you want the utility from or small bodies that you need on the board for aggro and mid-range deck. This can be very good. And the next card we have is none other than Zoro himself. Cost 4, power 6000 of the Straw Hat Crew. Dawn X1, when attacking, you can rest up to one of your opponent cost 6 or lower character. That is just huge. That means that if your opponent is ahead of you and is playing like one of his medium bodies that you know you're gonna have trouble removing, you can rest it and start harassing it to empty your opponent's hand if he needs to counter to keep him alive. I love this card. All of those cards, of course, were linked to Zoro, and now we're gonna talk a bit about Sanji because we have the first blue card, which is a 1 cost 3000 power with a counter of 1000 and the animal type, and it is the blue-finned elephant tuna. Just like the other vanillas, it's a 1 cost 3000 power, it's a vanilla. You cannot expect anything more from this. This is fairly classical. But the next card is actually the second SR of the deck. The first one was Mihawk, I forgot to mention that, sorry. Emporio Ivankov cost 3 power, 4000, Impel Down and Revolutionary Army, with the effect that on play you can reveal the top cards of your deck and play up to 1 cost 2 character, then you can return the remaining card to the top or bottom of your deck. And an additional effect, when attacking once per turn, if your hand has 6 cards or less, you can draw a card. Also a counter of 1000. Now bear in mind, drawing power in One Piece is key. If you can get many cards in your hand, that's always good because you need to be able to draw into your win conditions and your utility cards and stuff like that, depending on the deck that you run, but you always need draw power. Draw power is just very good. And also, this is translated, this is not the official translation, but from what I understand, you can reveal the top card of your deck and then play up to 1 cost 2 character cards. But it doesn't say that it has to come from your deck. It just says plays up to 1 cost 2 characters. So this is something that's gonna need some clearing out when the starter deck go out, and we're gonna have that through the FAQ officials of the game with the ruling and stuff like that. But for now, like, let's just take this with a pinch of salt. And the next card is gonna be Sanji himself, 2 cost 3000 power of the Straw Hat Crew, with the effect Dawn X1, when attacking, if you have 5 or less cards in your hand, this character gains plus 2000 power until the start of your next turn. This is very good, because you're attaching him a Dawn, so to attack you are at 4. But if you have 5 or less cards, you are at 6k power. The 2k is until your next turn, so you can have 5k defensively with Sanji. So your opponent is gonna have more trouble removing this from the board if you want to attack into him, because you're not gonna be at 3k left out in the wind after your attack. You're still gonna be a 5k. So as a small body utility card, I think this is very interesting and very cool that they've included such concept into the game. That said, it might just be me who's like overhyping over some small stuff, but I find this very interesting and very cool to play with, but not as cool as the standard 2k counters that we have throughout the game. They are very important, you should include them in your deck, and there are some in this deck. 2 cost, 2000 power, Charlotte Pudding of the Big Mom Pirate. Activate main, return this character to the owner's hand. So you can potentially play this early, start harassing your opponent, and then when things get a bit complicated, you activate main, bounce it into your hand, and it turns back into a counter. Although, let's be honest, I'm not gonna play this in the first place, and I'm just gonna keep it as a 2k counter in my hand. But I digress. And of course, if we talk about Sanji, we cannot forget his favorite father figure, 5 cost, 5000 power Zeph from the East Blue. With a non-play effect, look at the top 3 cards of your deck and place them at the top or bottom in any order. So you get some blue predictability. We had this with Perona back in set 1, where you can look at the top of your deck, arrange them in the order that you want, so you know what you're gonna be drawing next turn, which incidentally in this deck can help you with Ivankov. Possibly play that 2 cost that it's mentioned on the card if you need to play it from the top of your deck. And the second effect of Zeph is when attacking, you can reveal the top card of your deck, and you may play up to 1 cost 2 character cards rested, then return the remaining card to the top or bottom of your deck. So yeah, that's kind of the same effect as Ivankov, so you can predict both of them and actually play 2 cost 2 cards character in the same turn using Ivankov as Zeph in the same turn. And the next card we have is actually the real Sanji, if you know, you know, and it's gonna be Duval, 2 cost, 1000 power, Flying Fish Riders, and blocker. It's always good, blockers. It also has a counter of 1000, but what you really want is to play him as a blocker, and it also has an effect on play. Look at the 3 cards from the top of your deck, place them at the top or bottom in any order. It helps you preemptively plan for Zeph and Ivankov with the on play effect and when attacking, where you can play a 2 cost from the top of your deck. We also have Patty and Carne, cost 2, power 4000 of the East Blue with a counter 1000, 2 cost 4k power, vanilla, classic. There's nothing much to say about this. And we are now getting into the events of the deck. So we have Lion Song, cost 2 of the Straw Hat Crew with a main and counter effect. Rest up to one of your opponent's leader or up to one of your opponent's character with a cost of 4 or lower. Perfect to go on the offensive, but also defensively. You get an attack from one of your character, you rest the leader, or you get an attack from your opponent's leader, you rest one of his 4 cost or lower to prevent further damage to your life. And what's bonkers is that these cards also have a trigger with an activate this card's main effect. It is very good. It is one of the best green event that we've had so far. I strongly believe this is gonna be a staple for any green deck. And finally, last but not least, we have Parashot, which is a 1 cost event of the Straw Hat Crew. Just a counter and no trigger, but you can give up to one of your leader or character plus 2000 power during this battle, but then you can reveal the top card of your deck and add to your hand up to 1 cost 2 character, and then place the remaining at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. Again, the blue side of the deck is more about controlling what comes on top of your deck and having 2 costs that you can either play or get into your hands for free, which kind of equates to draw power, and like I said, it is very good in this game, so you should definitely not underestimate this mechanic. And I have to say, overall, for a bicolor leader, which bear in mind, bicolor leaders only have 4 life, I think the deck is very solid. You got a lot of options, you got restand and rest with the green, which is kind of expected, and you have control over the top of your deck with draw power and possibly free play of cost 2 characters, which is very good, and that's the kind of thing that you want in this deck. I mean, Duvel is a cost 2, so if you can play it for free using Ivankov and Zeph, well, do it. It's gonna be useful, and the best about it is you play Duval using Zeph or Ivankov's effect. You get the on play of Duval, which helps you predict the top cards of your deck, possibly put another Duval. So if you used either Zeph or Ivankov, you can use the other one and play 2 Duvals in one turn on the top of your deck. And then if you really need, you can play another event or something and get a 2 cost from the top of your deck for free in your hand. I think they made a very good job with this deck, and seems like a very good deck for beginners to have bicolor leaders be available to the bigger number. But that is just my opinion, guys, so let me know in the comments, do you find this deck interesting? Which cards was your favorite? And do you plan to pre-order this for March 2024 when it hits the global release? Let me know all that in the comment section below. And in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and if you're still here, that means the video was at the very least entertaining to you, so please leave a like, and also make sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell to never miss anything geek. Bye guys.